So, with the year 2021 almost over, I figured this would be a perfect time to start this series. As for the next few days, I will be covering the games I absolutely adored and loved in year 2021. Originally, for my indie game of the year, it was going to be K's and the Wild Mask, which is in similar style of the Donkey Kong Country games, but you play as a rabbit. But instead, we'll be covering Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, my latest addiction besides the Monster Hunter series. This is the first of the few Shovel Knight games that is not developed by Yacht Club Games. This is one of the few that are being published by them, licensed out to different developers, which is a pretty smart move if they truly are working on a brand new IP. As you notice, when it comes to this game, you get to play as a lot of the other knights in the previous Shovel Knight games. So if there was a boss that was not playable in either of the campaigns, this is a pretty neat idea. As well, they introduce new characters like Prism Knight and Puzzle Knight, which expands more lore into the series. And yes, this game is canon. So what is Pocket Dungeon? If you've never heard of what Pocket Dungeon is, this is a puzzle game. At least originally thought it was going to be just a puzzle game. It is also a roguelike, which on paper kind of seems like a very far-fetched idea. But how it turned out is a lot better than I was expecting, because to be honest, I thought it was just going to be a normal puzzle game. But then I watched somebody play it, I thought, I'll give it a try. How hard could it be? Oh, silly me, not remembering how hard something like Binding of Isaac was. And as well, I've been playing this year Returnal, another roguelike, so I definitely am familiar when it comes to like how brutal these types of games can be. So, gameplay-wise, it definitely works out like your typical puzzle game. But, as well, you have to be very careful in planning out your attacks. You can't go in guns blazing. Because as you see, you have to collect gems, keys, in order to actually... Well, the gem thing I'll explain a little bit later. You see, with the keys, you need them in order to open special chests. There are two types. One that gets you items that can help you out, like weaponry with the axe, smoke bombs, and other kinds of helpful stuff. Even the little gadget where you can actually freeze time, which can be pretty helpful if you're struggling with a specific enemy. But then the other type of chest, which is more like a shop, which kind of works like the meal tickets in Shovel Knight main campaign, but it also has little relics as well, which again is a little throwback, which is pretty well really feel like a true Shovel Knight experience. As you can see, this is the shop where you can buy stuff, which can be a very big help depending on your situation. It can make or break your runs. It can be very useful, or it can give you the bad items that are not as useful. Either way, it depends on your playstyle. That's another thing when it comes to the characters. Each of them have a different playstyle that can work for the player. Say there's a certain knight you like, but they don't work out with your playstyle. There's definitely a variety of options, and honestly, every one of the knights is so much fun in their own right. My personal favorites are Treasure Knight, Mole Knight, Tinker Knight, as well as Spectre Knight. But there's definitely pros and cons when it comes to each of them, like I said. Especially when it comes to somebody like Spectre Knight, who he's useful when it comes to the normal stages. But there'll be special stages later on in the game that someone like him will not be very useful. As we'll note, the shops do not close, so it's safe if you went later into the run, you can have the benefit of going back in if you have enough gems or stuff. Enough money to actually do stuff and get your items. As well, like I said with Spectre Knight, because he can kill an enemy, he can regain his health. But if he hits a potion, he will take damage. There's definitely pros and cons with each of the knights, which makes it very... see which knight works for your type of playstyle. And then of course later on the third level, this is be where you encounter your first boss, and this is where you can unlock. This is basically how you unlock all the knights, except for Black Knight and Shield Knight, who are unlockable with special portals where you need 3 keys. And honestly, this is a pretty neat idea for a puzzle game to have like little boss fights. It makes things feel very repetitive. I mean, granted, some early ones can be pretty easy, but the later ones definitely really brutal, especially after the second boss. But then you have somebody at the final boss who's really tough, and you gotta be prepared. Each boss usually feels very unique and very different from one another. Never gets stale at the slightest. Especially some bosses later on have not just one phase, they have 2 phases, especially someone like Tinker Knight, which for me was like the hardest. At least until the final boss happened. It's a nice way to spice things up, and probably the fights are pretty solid, and from decent to solid. Can be pretty fun, some stressful. Like I said, when it comes to like somebody like Spectre Knight, he's probably not your go-to option, even though he has the cool kill enemy and heal option, which is definitely a good perk, but it's definitely not worth it at the end of the day. As well with this game, it's very accessible in terms of roguelikes. In the options, you can set to some things you want, some things you don't, and as well, say if you die during the run, you have to go back to the very first level. Well, if you have enough gold, you can actually go back to said location. Granted, you are not going to have enough to get through the actual fight. You won't have certain items. You're going in just for your health. That's about it. But is this game any good? I definitely say so. If you're a fan of Shovel Knight, or you're into puzzle games or roguelikes, I definitely highly recommend picking up this game. Note, I am capturing this game on the PS5, but of course recently I just got, during the recording, I did get the PC version, and either way, I'd still highly recommend it any way you can play it. The only platform it's not on is mobile, which is totally fine, although it's kind of surprising, but at the same time, oh well, it's fine. But yeah, if I had to give this game a score, it'd definitely be an 8 out of 10. And someone, of course, who likes roguelikes, or especially roguelikes, not so much puzzle games. I've never been really into puzzle games, but anyways, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!